Hi everybody and welcome to this week's Tune In Tuesday. So this week we've got a really interesting video for you guys. A lot of you always ask, what do we actually find on our beach cleans? Well, today we are going to answer that question. Behind me you can see some of our dedicated Beach Guardian volunteers, and what they're doing is sorting through the bags of litter that we've picked off the last 5 beach cleans. Now the reason for this is because of the Marine Conservation Society's Great British Beach Clean, because this campaign has been running for over 2 decades now and directly monitoring the amount of plastic that's been littering our coastlines. So we've been running 5 different beach cleans, as I say, for this campaign, and the idea is not only do you have to remove the plastic from the environment, but also you have to quantify what exactly it is you are finding. So we've got the 5 bags of rubbish from the 5 different beach cleans, and they're now sorting through it to see what we found. So let's see what it is. The results are in, but first let's hear from Jules, who is the Sea Champions Volunteer Coordinator and Community Engagement Manager for the Marine Conservation Society in the Southwest.
Well, this year was the 27th Great British Beach Clean, and it was a bit different, so we couldn't have thousands of people out there in big groups, so we did lots of little cleans, and we collected a lot of data. And it was actually really nice because we had a chance to chat in our small groups of 6 and really look at what we were finding and recording.
Awesome. And what would you say is the weirdest or coolest thing you've ever found on a beach clean?
So we find quite a few dental braces after the summer holidays, so dentistry gone wrong. We normally find, it's not cool at all, but usually find a pair of pants like this one here from Harlem Beach, often a shoe, always one shoe, so we could reunite the shoes and the pants with their owners. That would be quite cool.
It's never a pair of shoes though, is it?
Never a pair of shoes, it's always one shoe, and yeah, it's always big pants.
Maybe they're too big that they fall off.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they're being used as a flag. I don't know.
Yeah. And the event this morning, what would you say to other people thinking about getting involved in surveys like this? How have you felt that this morning's gone inspiration wise?
Yeah, it's been really good because this year, the other main difference with this year is what we've been finding. So we've been finding the usual suspects, which are bits of plastic, lots of those, which is always our commonest item and has been for many years. Lots of caps from bottles. But this year what's been different is we've been finding PPE, so discarded disposable masks, bits of gloves like this. And we really need to be able to quantify that. So we've had lots of anecdotal stories of people saying they're finding an increased amount of this, but we need to know numbers so that we can actually prove it. So this morning's been great because we've actually got data, we've got some numbers on this, and we can use that to campaign and to hopefully get behaviour changing in regards to, you don't have to dispose of your face mask just because it's disposable the minute you finished wearing it. So yeah, it's been really great, and thank you everybody that helped.
It was absolutely brilliant to hear from Jules there and to hear what she thought of our volunteer survey event, and it was a real pleasure to have you join us, so thank you so much, Jules. So let's go through the data and what did we actually find. So our 5 beach cleans were across 5 of the 7 bays. We did Porthcothan, Trianon, Constantine, Harlyn and Trevone. So let's start with Porthcothan. So on our Porthcothan survey, we found a total of 1,153 pieces. Now nearly 90% of these pieces were either plastic or polystyrene, 11% of which are sourced from the public and nearly 14% were from the fishing industry. So moving over now to Trianon, and we're going to make our way through the beaches as you would if you were driving towards Padstow. So on our Trianon survey, we found 1,501 pieces, which makes this the worst or best beach clean, depending how you look at it. So we found the most items on Trianon. Now over 90% of these, again, were either plastic or polystyrene, but over 30% of this waste was sourced from the public. Moving swiftly on to Constantine Bay. Now this is one of my favourite beaches to clean, and keep an eye out for next week's Tune In Tuesday as we've got a real adventure on Constantine coming up for you. But for this survey, we found 1,353 pieces. Now what's really staggering to me from this was that over 10% of this was sanitary waste, so it's sourced from sewage, which is utterly gross, and hence why you should always be wearing gloves on your beach cleans. So 50% of this waste was non-sourced and the rest was between the public, fishing industry and, as I said, sewage. Okay, now moving over to Harlyn. Now nearly 90% of the 1,354 pieces found was either plastic or polystyrene. So there's a real trend we're seeing here with that the majority of what we find is either plastic or polystyrene. But what was really shocking with this data from this survey was that out of these 1,354 pieces, we found 121 cigarette butts. 121 from just one beach. That is just utterly shocking. And nearly 50% of what we found down on Harlyn was sourced from the fishing industry, so significantly more than any of the other beaches that we surveyed. Okay, so last but by no means least, we have Trevone, which is of course my favourite beach. It's the beach that I spent lockdown clearing. It's the beach that I grew up on, so I was very pleased to see that Trevone was in fact the cleanest of all the beaches, and by far we only found 476 pieces on that survey. And I say only, 476 is still a significant amount, but it is drastically less than the rest of the beaches that we surveyed. And most of this, again, is similar to what we're seeing, was plastic or polystyrene, and from a variety of sources. So let's summarise this. Let's look at the totals across all of our 5 surveys. In total, we removed throughout the whole of the Great British Beach Clean campaign from the Marine Conservation Society, 5,837 items. Now this is a really high quantity of plastic items that we're removing from the beaches, and this is just 5 beach cleans. We do hundreds of events every year, so it really gives you the scale of the issue, but also the scale of the difference that we're making with our community beach cleans and other groups are making across the world. As we said, Trianon had the most items in the survey and Travone had the least. But there's 2 items that we found that I would really like to focus on because this really did shock me. And that's the cigarette butts and the cotton bud sticks. So in total across our 5 beach cleans, we found 239 cigarette butts, which is an enormous quantity. And not many people realise that cigarette butts are in fact made out of synthetic materials. They are plastic too. And researchers found that it just takes 1 cigarette butt to toxify 1 litre of seawater. So that's 239 litres of seawater that could be affected by all sorts of toxins that are put into the cigarette butts. And the other one, of course, is the cotton bud sticks. Now, across the 5 beach cleans, we found 198 plastic stemmed cotton bud sticks. And the reason that I wanted to focus on this was that last week we had the phenomenal news about the ban of the single-use plastics coming into force. Now, the single-use plastics that this is focusing on is the cotton bud sticks, plastic straws and plastic stirrers. Now, all 3 of these items we're still finding on our beach cleans in high numbers. I mean, 198 cotton bud sticks is significant. So hopefully, following on from this ban, we're going to see some important changes taking place on our beach cleans, and maybe next year we will see significantly less of those items. So all that's left to say is a huge thank you, of course, to all of you watching, but also to all of the volunteers that came to the beach clean, and also to the volunteers that came and helped us sort it all out and do the survey. As I said, we've got a really special episode coming up next week, so keep your eye out for that. If you enjoyed this week's episode that's going through what we actually find on our beach cleans, then why not give it a like, comment or share, and I'll see you next week for next week's episode.